but I prepared some handouts in English and German and also some checklists. And I also have my book with me, but I come back to that later. And I use these cards because the topic I'm talking about is so exciting that I know I would talk for hours. So these cards will help me to stay disciplined. Okay? Thank you. So it's a real honor to speak here at Startup Connect, especially in Chemnitz. I'm coming from Düsseldorf, a city that doesn't just talk about transformation, but really actually lives it. You can feel the mix of tradition and re-innovation and reinvention in every part of the program. We started yesterday with the tour at Stadtbase to the makers and founders from Saxony and beyond. We already explored how maker spaces and startups collaborate and how talent finds its place and how we go global from here. What I'd like to do now is to zoom in one critical phase every startup is going to face. The moment when what got you here is no longer enough to take you forward. Because if we're honest, most startups don't fail because of bad ideas. They fail because of what happened next, after the launch, when growth begins. So today I want to share with you the hidden journey from startup to scale up. And why it's not just about growing a business, it's about growing people, systems, and mindsets. Let me ask you something. In this big group we have here, who of you is working for a startup? Okay. Who founded one? And who knows somebody who did found and failed? And founded and succeeded? Great. So what I'm going to talk about is relevant to all of you. Yes. Perfect. Startups are not really a tech thing, they are mindset. And the challenge is much more closer to home than sometimes we think. Now let's get into it. Here's the headline. Most startups don't fail from bad ideas. They fail from growing wrong. CB Insights analyzed over 100 startup postmortems. The reasons for failure? No marketing, okay. Wrong team, timing issues, internal conflict, and yes, eventually, money. But money was rarely the first problem. In fact, most failures come down to three things: strategy, people, structure. When scaling, there are three critical shifts which need to be managed. The first shift concerns the founder, him or herself. Every founder faces a moment of truth. Do I stay the creative force, or do I become the CEO? This is not a position question, it's an identity question. Stelios Hadjianaru, so I also have a problem with names, that's actually the name of the founder of EasyJet. He built it from one plane to a powerhouse and then stepped aside because he knew his strength was starting, not managing. And that's rare. Normally, founders stay in charge too long. They love their product. They know every line of code. They know every customer name. They're Daniel Düsentrieb, the brilliant innovator. I don't know if you still know that, but he is innovative. But the moment comes when a business needs more than brilliance. It needs leadership, structure, prioritization. You can't scale with your hands still in every decision. You need to move from in the business to on the business. And if you can't, you need somebody who can. This is the first major scaling decision, and it's deeply personal. So quick reflection, just for yourself. Where are you today? In or on? I know similar crossroads because I've been there too. Years ago I had ideas that didn't quite fit into the corporate world. They were too forward, too unconventional, and I think also too quick. So today I own my own company and help founders navigate that same tension and turn it into momentum. Founders come in many shapes, but when it comes to scale, they typically fall into one of three types. The builder, driven by product, happiest when coding, inventing, iterating. The captain, naturally inclined to lead others, shape strategy, make decisions. Or the believer, fueled by mission and values, and often the emotional anchor of the company. All three are vital, but none of them alone is enough. So as you scale, ask, which one am I? And who do I need next to me to balance me out? Most probably that's what everybody does with 4 founders. So they have found their complementarity. So you don't need to become somebody else. You just need to be honest about who you are and what your company needs now. There's also another myth in the startup culture. Once you've built one company, the second one's easier. There's a study from ZEW Mannheim Institute who actually showed that second-time founders who failed once are statistically likely to fail again. So why is that? Because failure doesn't automatically teach you the right lessons. In fact, sometimes it reinforces the wrong ones, unless you actually change your approach. So experience alone isn't enough. What matters is reflection, growth, and the willingness to admit, maybe this time I need help. So let's go back to the shifts. We already had one, now we go to number 2. The second shift is about people who join your company as you grow. Early hires were often friends, fellow students, or passionate journalists. Their belief in the idea was very often the best qualification they had. Now let's talk about the fact what happens when new people arrive. I was once working with a startup, and their management team all came to the office by bikes. So when they grew, they needed salespeople. One sales candidate asked, what do they ask? What kind of company car do I get? They nearly wanted to throw him out. So this moment was symbolic. Scaling means bringing in people who weren't there at the beginning. People who have, and this is important, different skills. Operations, finance, sales, HR. They ask different questions. They have different expectations. Many founders come straight from university or research. They do know innovation, but they don't know how established companies work. So when experienced professionals arrive with different expectations, it clashes. One of the most common mistakes I see is founders hiring people just like themselves. It's comfortable, it's fast, it's fatal. If you're the product person, hire a finance expert. If you're great at storytelling, bring in someone who loves process. If everyone in your leadership team thinks like you, congratulations! You just doubled your blind spots. Scaling successfully means welcoming people who challenge you and creating space for them to succeed. If you reject them because they don't feel like us, you will never be able to build a real company. Founders must evolve from tribalism to professionalism. You don't need clones, you need complementarity. This is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of growth. So the third shift is about wave 3 employees. That means when you're growing so much that you need more of all the functions you already have. So these wave 3 employees don't have the same fire burning for your idea as wave 1 and 2. they didn't join a course. They joined the company. That's not failure, it's reality. Wave 1 employees were missionaries. Wave 3 are professionals. Their loyalty is earned through clarity, good leadership, and fair systems, not beer fridges and war stories. So let me ask, who of you is working for a company with more than 25 people? Okay, some. So at least you know, Wave 3 employees bring professionalism. Another anecdote from my experience, there was a company hiring in Wave 3 employees and gave them complete carte blanche. 1 month later, the head of sales came back and said, I'm lost. I have no clue who has to find a call. So freedom without structure isn't freedom, it's fog. It's your job as founder or CEO to build a culture that includes both the passion of the first team and the expertise of the new team. Let me add something I learned from a conversation with Charles Schray, a seasoned private equity investor. I asked him, what is the most important thing you look for when deciding to invest in a growing startup? His response was telling. He said, I look for founders and teams who can both drive and detach, who understand how they create value and what they need to change to scale that value. In other words, vision plus adaptability. A passionate founder who also has the humility to question their role. That's the type of leadership that attracts investment and makes your idea survive. We think startups fail because they run out of money, but that's just a symptom. They fail because the founder doesn't adapt, the team doesn't evolve, and the structure doesn't scale. What worked for 5 people is not working for 50. Because no one defined roles, because decisions are still taken with 5 WhatsApp messages and coffee. If you want to scale, you need clear roles, decision rules, process without killing speed, and accountability without killing creativity. Every founder, of course, fears one thing. Well, yeah, if I introduce process, I will kill creativity. But the truth here is, lack of process doesn't create freedom. It creates confusion. Lack of roles doesn't build equality. It breeds resentment. Lack of structure doesn't preserve the energy of a startup. It actually burns it out. The best startups scale not by adding bureaucracy, but by defining just enough structure to allow everybody to contribute confidently. So the founder has to change. Letting go of control isn't a weakness, it's growth. Whether that means hiring a CEO, building a real management team, or just finally delegating, it's the only way your idea survives. The company needs different things now. No more hustle, but more clarity. No more vision, but more direction. Not more all-nighters, but more structure. You don't lose your soul by scaling. You lose it by refusing to. If you're wondering how to navigate this transition, how to scale your business without losing identity, that's precisely where I come in. I work with founders in exactly this moment, when the team is growing, when the friction increases, and when the founder asks, what is my next role? I have designed that next step with structure, without losing soul. Scaling is not just reacting to growth, it's designing it. You don't need a crystal ball to design your company's future. You need questions, clarity, and the courage to shape instead of chase. I believe the future isn't something we survive or wait to happen. It's something we shape. Whether it's team design, leadership development, or building scalable culture, I help you get ready for what's next. You can find more on my website, People and Results. And I also have a book with me where I dedicated a chapter to exactly that situation. If this resonates and you are standing at that point, let's talk. This is the work I do, and this is what I love doing. End of my publicity blog. You don't need to look far for scale-ups. Just look around this week. So we already heard a lot of stories of Chemnitz. So we have visited Schlachtbase, a German first unicorn from the East. They scaled culture, leadership, and vision across multiple countries. I also saw there is Naventic with advanced navigation tech, which redefines how vehicles orient in space, rooted in local research and now used globally. And I think I understood that they were successfully sold to uBlocks in 2022. We also have Authentic Network, a blockchain pioneer from Chemnitz, linking physical goods with digital twins to fight fraud and improve logistics. Then we have InHub, part of the Smart Systems Network, helping Mittelstand companies digitize without pain, turning buzzwords like Industry 4.0 into reality. And then we also have in TU Chemnitz the Forte Saxonia, student team building hydrogen vehicles that set new benchmarks in energy efficiency. So the city is not at the edge of innovation, it's in the middle of it. And if you visited the Maker Hub yesterday, that's where the next generation is going. What happens next depends on how well we will guide them. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the garage where your idea was born. It's full of energy, chaos, freedom. But garages aren't built to grow. They have one door, no insulation, no systems. Eventually, you need to move into a real structure. One with wiring, exits, processes, and maybe even a job. That's not selling out, that's growing up. You don't abandon the garage spirit. You build a company where that spirit can last longer. So let's shape your future together. Now it's time to sum up. Perfect timing. What does it take to grow from garage to growth? A founder who is willing to evolve, a team that embraces diversity of thought, a culture that balances both passion and professionalism, and above all, the courage to let go of what worked yesterday to build what's needed tomorrow. The question is no longer, can you build something great? The question is now, can you build something that lasts? Thank you.